Watch this.
It's Friday. You know what that means? You made it through the week. Here's what we got for you on tap on the 208. JFAC hasn't always gotten along this session, but today they were able to do the thing that they have to do to go home. That's right, they're passing budgets. Today, education was on the list, and they did it really without bickering. A familiar name is back with the Idaho Steelheads Hockey Club. The son of a legend is set to follow in his father's footsteps. We're checking in with the coolest team in town ahead of the regular season wind down. We're bringing you back to the USS Idaho story from earlier this week because you, the great people of Idaho, had a lot to say all about it. We'll get to your comments before we get to your latest ones live at the end of the show. 1 week from today, Idaho lawmakers plan on calling it a year. But before lawmakers can sine die or sine die for the season, they need to finish up the budget. Idaho Constitution says so. So really, that's their only must-do at this point. But on yesterday, we saw major action on Idaho launch and Governor Little's pitch in the House Bill 521. Big hurdles to clear, but maybe some more out there. Early this morning, Idaho lawmakers in the State Budgeting Committee, they took up some supplemental education pitches, and this is where things could have gotten a little wonky. But for the most part, education bills, the supplementals, they passed smoothly out of JFAC. And the co-chair of the committee, Wendy Horman, she says that getting to this point was the goal all session.
The commitment of this committee was to get the full funding out that we appropriated last year. Though the student numbers don't drive that money out, we have found ways anyway to advance that money. The supplemental represents our best estimate at this time of the amount that is related to the change from enrollment back to ADA, which is how the current law reads.
So that's daily attendance, and that's kind of what she was talking about in terms of the funding mechanisms. But anyways, JFAC co-chairs finished up their budget meeting today to set the stage for next week. JFAC plans to have one more meeting next week, and then that would kind of solidify the end. So here we are, the beginning of the end. Budgets, of course, though, need to clear the House and Senate. Maybe easier said than done, but certainly sets up a lot to see next week. All right, so what else did we cover in the legislature this week? Well, we covered 13 things. 5 Senate bills, including guns at events on state property, paid signature gatherers, religious counselor rights, EMS, and election security. In the House, we covered 8 additional items, and a lot to do with education, like Holocaust education, sex ed, harmful materials in libraries, and funding school infrastructure and grant programs. So let's see where some of the main legislation we covered ended up at the end of the week. On Monday, we talked about 4 different bills, including Senate Bill 1352. The bill wants to give counselors and therapists the right to refuse service based on deeply held religious beliefs. Those in opposition say, at best, this proposed bill goes against the industry's code of ethics, and at worst, it would actually legalize discrimination. However, bill supporters argued that counselors are forced to agree with morally imperfect people. On Monday, the bill passed the House floor, and on Wednesday, the bill was delivered to the governor's desk to be signed into law. Tuesday, we checked in on 2 pieces of legislation, including Senate Bill 1416. It moves emergency medical services out from the Department of Health and Welfare and under the Office of Emergency Management, thus establishing EMS as an essential service. The bill would only offset the cost of staff and equipment, but still, those against the bill are worried about funding it. Those for it say it cuts down response times in rural counties.
A body recovery versus somebody who's actually been saved.
House Bill 1416 passed the Senate and heads to the House State Affairs Committee. On Wednesday, we covered a slew of bills, 5 to be exact. We'll focus on the most important one, House Bill 710, which is the 3rd attempt at prohibited materials in libraries, which some are still wondering, is it necessary?
Oh, Grandma, I hear worse than that at the bike rack.
This version still identifies any material containing homosexuality as harmful to minors, but it includes a partial description of the 3-pronged Miller test, which the United States Supreme Court deemed as what determines obscenity. It also says a complaint would either move a book to the adult section or open up the library for a civil lawsuit for $250, a far cry from last year's library bill, which threatened jail time for librarians and stiff fines for libraries.
I was abused. I knew it was wrong, but I didn't have the words to say what was happening to me. But reading about some other little girl's story who grew up a lot like me, I realized that I did matter.
House Bill 710 was held in committee at the call of the chair. We could or should see it again, and the committee will likely give it a vote to send it to the Senate floor, or maybe not. On Thursday, we talked about two major pieces of legislation. The first, House Bill 722. The bill puts $71 million towards funding the Idaho Launch Program. The grants cover 80% of tuition and fees at Idaho's colleges and technical schools for graduating high school seniors that are pursuing degrees and certifications in in-demand fields. Some lawmakers think that it's a handout that students don't need, but others say it can change lives.
I just do not think that this is a proper role of government.
These were first-generation kids. It's going to change the trajectory of their future and their children's future and every generation after that.
House Bill 722 passed the House and is now in the Senate Finance Committee. The second important bill from Thursday, House Bill 521.
Every single year, we even call them going home bills.
We were being told behind the scenes at the State House that this piece of legislation was held hostage for other legislation to get a look. You know, all kinds of backroom trading. But this week, it actually did see the light of the Senate floor. The historic $2 billion 10-year plan Governor Little laid out in his State of the State back in January, it takes burden off of local property taxes to help pay for school buildings.
Let's dedicate the $2 billion in school facilities now to modernize school infrastructure and address unmet critical maintenance.
Despite lawmakers pointing out the bill's problems, House Bill 521 passed the Senate and is heading to the governor's desk to be signed into law. Yesterday, Governor Little wrote, "Thank you and congratulations to the legislature." And finally on Friday, we have an update on House Bill 668. The proposal bans the use of all public funds, including Medicaid coverage, to pay for any surgical operations or medical interventions for the purpose of gender transition, regardless if this is for a minor or an adult in Idaho. Those for the legislation believe it saves Idaho taxpayers money. Those against it say these are life-saving procedures and we should be getting out of the way of doctors to let them decide. Today, Friday, House Bill 668 passed the Idaho Senate and soon will be heading to the governor's desk for consideration to be signed into law. So Governor Little is going home happy this week, and the legislature, they believe they could be on track to wrap up the whole thing next Friday, March 29th. We'll keep you posted on the big wrap-up, but for now, that's a legislative wrap. Well, major Idaho news. We now know there was a third suspect arrested after a shootout when a former inmate, and soon to be again inmate, helped another inmate escape custody while on a visit to the hospital. Abby Davis has the latest on that story, plus more news from around the 208 in this week's 411.
An escaped prisoner and his accomplice appeared in a courtroom for the first time today. Skylar Mead and Nicholas Umfenauer, along with a woman Idaho State Police say was found in the car with Mead when he was arrested, were arraigned. Mead and Umfenauer are being held on $2 million bonds on a number of charges. Mead faces felony escape charges. Umfenauer faces 3 counts of aggravated battery on law enforcement officers, use of a firearm during a felony, and aiding and abetting escape by a felon. 52-year-old Tanya Huber is charged with harboring a fugitive, eluding, and possession. She's being held on a $500,000 bond. I'll have more details on the news at 6 about what led to their arrests. Switching gears now, the popular burger chain In-N-Out, you know, the one with a 6+ hour long line opening week in Meridian, yeah, they're adding 2 more to the Treasure Valley. The Boise location is under construction near the Boise Town Square Mall where Pier 1 was. Construction for the Nampa location is also underway where the old TGI Fridays was on Merchant Way. No word on when either will open. But you know what is open and ready to eat? The Wiener Schnitzel in Meridian. The nationwide chain is back in Idaho after more than 40 years. The location is now open at the corner of McMillan and 10 Mile Roads. 2 more are coming to the Treasure Valley, but we don't know when. And that's the 411 on the 208. I'm Abby Davis.
The latest Virginia-class submarine was christened in Connecticut last weekend. We find a unique Idaho connection across the country that you had a lot to say about. We'll show you those comments after the break. Right now is also a great time to send in your comments about today's show. Text them to us at 208-321-5614 with your name and hashtag the 208. You know the drill. Keep them clean, concise, and clever. We'll show as many as we can live at the end of the program. Last week, we brought you out to Connecticut for the christening of the USS Idaho, the first United States Navy christening of an Idaho in more than 100 years. And the new boat is a Virginia-class submarine, so in short, it's a warship, and they're built to take out enemy ships, collect intelligence, and support special operations. And it'll hold a 132-person crew. And on Saturday, it was christened into the fleet. Anna in Caldwell had a question, though. Several of you did. Anna, though, asked, who is the lady who christened the Idaho with the champagne? It's a great question, Anna from Caldwell. So we learned she is the wife of a longtime Navy vet. And the christening, it wasn't champagne. It was actually water from Idaho lakes. But our story today is about who we met after the christening, a connection to the USS Idaho crew from the 1940s. Here's Andrew Bartline.
In an oversized Atlantic Coast warehouse,
of building submarines like we have never built before.
Nationwide crowds on deck for a celebration.
Idaho's contribution to national security.
More than half of the commissioned Navy fleet owes them one word: nuclear.
Gives us an unfair advantage against every potential adversary.
And the latest crew,
the gem of the fleet,
will pilot the designation long overdue.
So if I could get a big round of applause for that team.
For nearly 80 years, the name's been dormant.
It's high time we give honor and again christen another USS Idaho.
A name that could never be lost.
With his buddies.
That's the truth.
He's
in a scrapbook.
Here and here.
Saved through Eileen.
Yeah.
Her husband Al Wurdzek served on the previous USS Idaho in World War II. Al was one of 4 living crew members invited to the new ship's christening.
It would have been really great if he could have made it. So.
Al's son Chris says he died nearly 3 years ago, a hero.
He was, but he never thought he was.
Humble strength always has a source.
Can't get away from Idaho.
It's where Al's parents met and married. It's where Al trained after enlisting. It's the boat where Al served.
They kept track of their kills, their submarines.
Well worn from battle.
This is the one time that it did get damaged enough to have to go get repaired.
But never once was she sunk.
The Japanese claimed to have sank her 3 times or more. They'd get patched up, and they were right back in the fight.
A full embodiment of the name down to the final second of World War II.
When the surrender happened with Japan, they had the surrender signing on the Missouri battleship, and they brought the Idaho in and parked it right next to the Missouri, kind of as I thought you said you sank the Idaho, it's right there.
A piece of history Chris pulled from the scrapbook for himself.
This is to certify that Al Wurtzek was aboard the USS Idaho in Sagami-Wan and Tokyo Bay during the initial phase of the occupation of Japan and the signing of the terms of the Japanese surrender. And it's signed by the captain and first officer.
Big shoes to fill.
Pretty cool.
It's a task now left up to the next Idaho crew, and they know it.
The BB-42, the battleship?
Even to sailor Robert Bossian.
Oh yeah, it came with a bunch of surprises.
Proudly from the Panhandle.
I like being part of the Idaho, the state, and being part of the crew. Makes me feel a little bit more prideful that I know what the namesake means. I know how to carry myself as an Idahoan and bring that to the boat and share Idaho with the rest of the crew.
It's history that doesn't fade.
Once again, USS Idaho.
And protected by former Governor Dirk Kempthorne.
The seamless connection between crew and citizens is amazing.
Kempthorne shows them what's left of the last USS Idaho, what can still be seen, felt, touched.
This is one of the spots they visited in June of 23. The Veterans Memorial Cemetery.
They went and visited your husband's.
They did. Isn't that amazing?
These sailors had never met Al or his family.
I'm just honored to be part of it.
Even down to the smallest details, there's Idaho. Yeah! Loud and proud.
And it just brought all those feelings back. Yeah.
A lifetime later, the Wurtzeks know they can't shake it.
No, it keeps coming back.
And may she endure forever. Esto Perpetua.
The USS Idaho is still due a year of sea trials and then the official commissioning ceremony. We'll keep you posted. But from there, the submarine would join the United States Navy fleet. And you all had a lot of great things to tell us about the latest USS Idaho, so we thought we'd give a little extra time to the comments we did not get to, like this one from Craig, who said, quote, "Thank you for covering and reporting on the Idaho sub. It's good to see the real Idaho natives got to take part with respect." John wrote to us saying, "I liked your story about the USS Idaho. I spent 4 years on the USS Augusta, SSN 710, out of Groton in the Groton, Connecticut in the late 80s, early 90s, and was proud to see a new sub named after my home state. Brings back memories. Thank you. Well done." A few of you, I should say, were also wondering the same thing as Mike said. That was awesome that former Governor Kempthorne was at the christening. Did Crapo and Risch go to the USS Idaho Commission? Actually, we don't think they were there, but we do know that Governor Brad Little and Congressman Russ Fulcher, they were able to make it to Connecticut alongside some other politicians from Connecticut as well. But no, neither Senator or Congressman Mike Simpson were there. Simpson did just miss a vote recently for a scheduled medical appointment. We're not sure if that was related to the absence, but thank you for the comments as always. We'll get to more later.
As we head into the weekend, you can expect things to trend a little bit on the wetter side, so rain in valley locations and snow at those higher elevations. But as we end the work week, we're seeing those cloudy conditions, but it's still a little bit on the warmer side right now. So those temperatures are in the upper 60s in valley locations, and we will expect to stay warm all the way through the early morning hours tomorrow. 55 degrees near midnight, which is close to our average high temperature this time of year. So we're in the 40s in the morning hours, but things trending a little bit wetter as a cold front moves through, but much cooler tomorrow. So let's talk more about the cold front. That will be most noticeable tomorrow. You can see moving through the Treasure Valley areas in the morning hours. Meanwhile, the mountains will be seeing a little bit of a rain-snow mix at times. Visibility could be low as this cold front continues to move through. After the cold front moves through, we could see some scattered showers behind it, some that could get a little bit on the stronger side, so low chance of some isolated thunderstorms tomorrow. Meanwhile, Sunday we'll see things get a little bit more scattered in nature for the mountains, making way for some scattered snow showers. And as we continue throughout the mountains, you'll see thus more chances for snow will be continuing to be around next week. So even though we're not expecting too much, there will be more on the way.
Talk a little bit of sports on a Friday. The Idaho Steelheads are finally back home this weekend. The Steelies had a long road trip. They logged thousands of miles on the road and through the air. But Idaho comes home to the Gem State, sitting in second place in the Western Conference and Mountain Division. Steelheads fans heading to the games this weekend have a special skater to keep an eye out for. There he is, number 11. That's the son of Steelheads legend Jeremy Milmock. That's Connor Milmock. He just signed with Idaho this week. He debuted on Wednesday, and you can see he got into a physical game and a really good fight, delivering the big lefts and rights. Now, Connor's father is one of 5 Steelheads players to have their number retired. Number 4 went into the rafters back in 2008. And Jeremy actually introduced his son to Idaho ice at a young age. You learned to skate here?
Yeah, I literally would, my wife would, Darlene, would come in and drop the kids off at the locker room. I'd bring them in there and I would get their skates on, I'd throw them over the boards, close the gate, and off they would go. And I'd come back in half hour, 45 minutes. I'd, finish bike ride or a little workout and come back out, and hopefully they weren't fighting, but sometimes they were. But yeah, they literally, this is where they put their skates on when they were, they moved here. Connor was a newborn and Luke wasn't even born yet, So
Connor knows that this is a special situation. He watched his dad win the championship here in Idaho, but he's ready to roll. Did you have any moments on the bench where you're like, oh wow, I'm here?
Yeah, starting lineup right when during the national anthem, when our line started the game. So just looking around and taking it all in during the anthem. I was like, it's actually happening. Getting ready to play my first game. So.
And the Idaho Steelheads take on the Tulsa Oilers tonight. Puck drop at 7:10. You can watch the game on Idaho's 24/7. All right, a lot of great comments. We'll get to as many as we can right now. Oh, they didn't show up. We'll try again. Okay, I'm being told that the comments are having a little bit of a problem. Now they're here, they're ready to roll. Okay, this person says, the library bill. Teens should be able to read anything. That's Jim and Twin. Jim, that's certainly an opinion we see. Others, though, they have concerns about specific content. This comment says, on this legislation bill for the libraries, does it take just one person to save the book that shouldn't be there? Bob, it's a really good question, and we're going to have to actually see how this all works out in terms of the system itself. So it's a good question. We'll come back to this one. Another one, legislation on book bans, cannibals, and personal procedures. Oh my, I will tell you that cannibal bill, it appears that it's not going anywhere in the Senate. So we'll keep you an eye on that one. This person asking about daylight saving time. Again, that one also still sitting in the Senate, so we'll keep an eye on that one for next week. And then the USS Idaho, yes, a ship, not a boat. Well, it's kind of the way it goes, right? All right, we'll see you next week. Thanks for being here.